Welcome to class, another episode of Ask the Teacher. Coming to you by Teacher Teresa Simon and from the Waffle Suits of Kanu Street, Nakuru. Try us, you enjoy, and bring your family out here. Yes, to today's question is from a girl. My mother keeps insisting that I put on a dress when we are going to church. Why can't I go in a trouser? My mother keeps insisting that I put on a dress while going to church. Why can't I put on a trouser? Interesting question on dressing, and especially to the teenagers. And every time the question of dressing comes up, it is more of a generational issue than the dresses issue. And sometimes it is more of a cultural issue or a way of life by one generation as opposed to the other. Yet, even then, there are some basics that are consistent. There are some basics that cannot be argued about. And so when it comes to the issues of dressing, number one, we must be able to understand, before I come to my conclusion, we must be able to understand that although we are dressing, we do not dress for ourselves. Fact. When you are alone, you don't need any dressing. You can stay naked and nobody will ask you. You actually dress because you want to come out. You are dressing. The primary purpose of dressing is to cover nakedness. That's the primary work of dressing. The primary function is to cover nakedness. So one of the parameters that dressing must meet is that dressing must cover nakedness. So anytime you see someone being more naked than they are clothed, that's abuse of dressing. Dressing right from the beginning was supposed to cover nakedness. So, having said that, you must know you dress for us, you don't dress for you. When you are alone, you don't need to dress. And so, having said that, allow me to borrow from the Apostle Paul when he talks about dressing, and he says three things about dressing. He says modesty, decency, and appropriateness. Modesty is where he starts. Modesty means not extreme. You don't go to the extremes of dressing. If the dress is short, it is not too short that you have to keep putting it down. If the dress is tight, it is not too tight. Whether it is a trouser or a dress, whether it is for the male or for the female. If it is tight, it is not too tight. If it is loose, it is not again too loose. If it is long, it is not again too long. There is the issue of that modesty. Kiasi, that is what they say in Swahili. So be modest in your dressing. Do not overdo things. And that will come even to makeup and even tattoos. Do not overdo things. That's number one. Number two, decency. Decency, the original word for decency, the one that is used there, means shame. In some translation, you could find it called shamefacedness, which means you are putting on something you are not ashamed of, something that people with you cannot be ashamed of, something that you and the people with you are all comfortable. Because if you dress badly and you are my son or daughter, if we go with you, we are identified. And that's one of the things that young people should always remember. You represent a constituency. Whether it's your parents, or it's your church, or it's your school. You are not only representing yourself, you are representing others. So the cloth has to be decent, not to your standards, but to the standards of the people around you. They must consider it decent. So you need to have that discussion with your parents. What is decent around them, so that your parents don't feel uncomfortable by the way you are dressed when you're going out with them. So decency is the other parameter. Finally, there is the parameter of appropriateness. Appropriateness talks about proper dressing for function, proper dressing for occasion, proper dressing for an activity. So you cannot go with a swimming suit to church, just the same that you cannot go swimming with a suit unless it's a swimming suit. So there is proper, appropriateness talks about proper. There is proper dressing for certain occasions and certain places. That is the third rule of dressing that needs to be observed. So we observe these three rules of dressing and we have no trouble with people around us. Number one, decency. It must be something that does not shame us or shame our parents. The other one is the one we have talked about not being extreme. Do not be extreme with what you are doing. Have a measure. And then finally, let it be appropriate. You are dressing for the occasion. And that's why I've always argued with people who say ladies should not wear trousers. And I ask, what if the lady is an engineer and needs to go up a tower? They cannot do that in a skirt. Modesty, decency, appropriateness. That's your marking scheme for dressing. That's what the teacher has to say.